If you would like to volunteer or become a monthly sponsor, please visit us at www.themilafoundation.org. Again, that's www.themilafoundation.org, because every life matters.
This week's event shoutout sponsor is the Margarita Boat Show on Lake Conroe. This is a family-friendly event that is free for everyone. Join local boat and lake vendors on April 21st through April 23rd at Margarita Lake Resort. This 3-day event is open and free to the public all 3 days, featuring all your future boating needs on Lake Conroe. In-water demonstrations, over 30 vendors offering boating, marine, and recreational items from marine electronics to boat lifts to floaty motorized miniature drink bars. Don't miss the Margarita Boat Show on Lake Conroe this weekend, April 21st through April 23rd. For more information on this event, visit their Facebook page by searching the Margarita Boat Show on Lake Conroe or visit our sponsor page at www.irlonestar.com/sponsor. Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
Hi, I'm Kenna Danielle, and you are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZWLP Conroe and 106.1 KZCCLP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and I'm Rick Schissler. I'm your host. I'm a Silver Fox advisor as well as the founder of OneBestConsult.com. Today, we're again broadcasting live from the studios of Lone Star Community Radio. We're located right here in downtown Conroe, Texas, Montgomery County. Can't think of a better place to be, ladies and gentlemen, because business is great here in Montgomery County, here in Conroe, the county seat. Conroe is one of the fastest growing cities in America, in case you didn't know. I read the other day that our population is up 44% since 2020. It's an amazing place to be. It's an amazing place to see all the growth that's taking place and all the business that is being done. I encourage you to join our community. We're a community here on the Weekly Business Hour. You can lock in, get notices of things that are going on. You can also set up so the program comes on each week at 11 a.m. Every Monday, we're here. And just let you know that the show is being broadcast live on Facebook and YouTube, so you can watch as well as listen to us. So just go to the Weekly Business Hour page, click, and you can listen and watch the program live on YouTube or Facebook. I want to start out with a little thought. As regular listeners know, I'm always thinking about business. I love talking to people, to hearing from people about business. But a quick thought. Is your business ready for another political season, as I politely call it? That's coming in 2024. I think we're in for an unbelievable one. This has happened before in our history. As you know, I'm a student of history, particularly American history, and this is not new. Rarely is there anything really, really new. But we've had some interesting political elections, presidential elections, et cetera, and I think we're getting ready to have a wham banger. But I think it's important that you take a look and make sure your business and you are ready for that, because that always creates, when you're in this environment, even today, so far out from the election, creates a certain amount of uncertainty for people, concern. I hear people tell me about their distress, about the future, and to me that doesn't add up to a good potential client or customer, not really a buyer, because people are a little hesitant to spend their money and very careful where they do spend their money. So encourage you, let me give you 4 quick points. First of all, secure your business location, whether you rent or own, make sure it's secure. What am I saying? If you rent, lease, make sure you got a lease in place. Make sure you do that sooner than later, so you can take that off the list. Check that one off your checklist. Second, secure your employees. Well, if you've got a lot of work to do in this area, you really haven't been listening to the Weekly Business Hour for the last couple of years, or the business news that's out there, quite frankly, because all of us that are successful in business today have had to change and adjust to the new environment and dealing with employees and finding people and training them and keeping them. So make sure you're secure with your employees. Thirdly, make sure you have a secure banking relationship. Make sure if you need money in the next, say, couple, 2, 3 years, for whatever reason, a line of credit, you're buying your location, you need to buy a big piece of equipment, buy some new vehicles, make sure you have a strong relationship with your banker. And I know in the digital age, building relationships, the definition has really changed, but it's still important, in my opinion, to have a face-to-face personal relationship with a business banker if, in fact, you're growing and you're going to have needs to borrow money in the future. Make sure that relationship is secure. And then finally, secure your customers, okay? I heard someone do a breathe, what was that, a bit of a sigh perhaps out there. Well, we should be doing this every day. But again, some of us, particularly the last couple of years with COVID, we've lost that strong connection with our customers. I mean, we survived, we made it, some businesses thrived, and the ones that thrived and will continue to thrive are the ones that work on securing their relationship with the customers. And most importantly, and please don't overlook this, make sure that what you're offering today is what your customers want and need. There's been a big shift in many industries about what people are willing to buy, want to buy, how they see their purchases. And obviously in the digital area, time marches on, and it's a whole different world. It seems like almost every day, sometimes every hour, right? You got to stay connected and find what works for your business and make sure your customers are on the same page, or you need to adjust, change it up, whatever you have to do. Make sure you have your customers secure. So that's my 4 ideas and thoughts about the coming political season. So get ready so you can strap yourself in and, in a way, I guess, enjoy the ride if you can. The Weekly Business Hour is where Montgomery County and businesses throughout the world come to talk about the latest in business news, ideas to improve their businesses, and to be part of conversations like the one we're going to have today with our special guest that can make a real difference in your business. And I want to remind you again, if you want to see the show as well as listen, in other words, see us here live in the studio. That was a great wave there, Zachary. Wave, we're here. Go to YouTube and Facebook, click on the Weekly Business Hour page and click on live, and we're here. And as a reminder, email. Love to get emails. You can email me about a comment, a constructive criticism of the show, and most importantly, if you've got a question about your business, because that's what I do every day. I talk to business people. I answer questions. I try to help them figure out the best way to meet the challenges they face. So just drop me an email. Very simple. Address 1, that's the number 1, bestconsult@gmail.com. 1bestconsult@gmail.com. Okay, enough with the introduction, right? Time to get into the business and the main reason we're here today, and that's to have a conversation with Mr. Zachary Kitchen, who's a CEO and founder, cybersecurity specialist, IT expert, and on top of all that, he's an entrepreneur. Zachary, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And Rick, I wanted to add something about you were bringing up those relationships, because that was the biggest thing I was hearing on those first 4 points that you were making. And the thing is that you couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, that is the reason I'm here, is because of the relationships. And I know you made a comment on my LinkedIn post a couple of days ago when I was sitting with the sharks. And the thing is that when I first started my business, I didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. And my car was on the verge of repossession, and I had built the relationship and a rapport with the repo guy. I'm still friends with him to this day. So you're 100% right about keeping those relationships with the bankers and whatnot, because I did have those relationships with the bankers. And in the digital age, honestly, the old-fashioned thing is coming back. Digital marketing is more expensive than print marketing. So that's that face-to-face relationships. It does give you an upper edge than somebody that's only emailing their banker. So going out and see those people face-to-face, developing that relationship does make a huge difference in the world. So I do highly agree with what you just said earlier today.
You know, that's something, you make a wonderful point in your story, I think is great, is the fact that, you think about it, a banker is sitting in an office somewhere or in a meeting with other bankers, the loan committee, whatever, and if they can put a face with the file, the loan request, and they kind of know you, I guarantee you they're going to work harder for you than if you're just a number on a piece of paper.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The relationships is what makes it, especially like, people say we're on this verge of a recession. And the thing is that when I started my business, I started in 2009. That was right after the economic collapse with, the housing market, right? And that's exactly what we had. We had a personal relationship with our banker. And again, that's what made us. Otherwise, if we didn't have that, I don't think I would be here at all. Like, there's no way.
Well, and I can validate it based on my personal history. I sat on the board of a bank and the loan committee, and I guarantee you the loan officers that brought loans in to be approved, right, what they said about their client or customer, what they told us, the story, whatever it was, this was not on a piece of paper. This is what they said about it, went a long way to granting a loan to the individual and the loan that the person was asking for. And had to be qualified, but I'm just saying that was then, this is now, but that particular element, please, folks, don't overlook it. It is still so important. If you're at the right bank, right, then they want to know your story and they want to take care of your business.
Absolutely.
Well, wow, you've got all these things. You're an entrepreneur, you're a cybersecurity expert, which we'll get to that. You're an author, written a book. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Entrepreneur. What caused you to become an entrepreneur?
I've always had a passion for doing what I'm doing. I've always had a passion in the IT industry. And the thing is it was so new that there wasn't really a big industry when I first had a passion for it. So it was either you could join something or you can start something of your own. And what really pushed me to do it is it wasn't something I just woke up one day and said, I'm going to be my own boss. I actually got busted in junior high for hacking. And when I got busted, all the kids ended up telling their parents about it, So I ended up being this nobody to being a complete hero. Like, everybody wanted to be my friend. Everybody wanted to know who I was. They went home and told their parents about it. Well, you would think that the parents would be like, stay away from that kid or whatever. In fact, the opposite happened. I started getting phone calls at my parents' house saying, hey, my computer's broke. Can you fix it? Can you take care of this? Can you fix this? Can you make sure this is okay? And so I would get home to a list of phone calls, and I had like a job to go around fix these people's computers. I was making money, and that's how it all started. So I just got pulled into it. And then I got to where I ended up working for an IT company. I started building those relationships, and it's been game since. So the whole idea has been since I was in junior high.
It's funny, I have one of our sons has a somewhat of a parallel story, except his started in college, where people in the college, in the dorm, whatever, he had a knack for it, he loved doing it, and he was making money, which every college kid needs a little more money one way or the other. And he found a love, and today that's what he does. So he started in college. You got a head start back in junior high. But you pulled off a big thing. You hacked into the school's computer.
Yeah. That's a whole other story on its own. That'd be an episode on its own here.
Well, hopefully we'll never see you on TV like we're seeing that young man up in Massachusetts. Boy. Well, let me ask you this. Your business, you advertise, is in the managed service business. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't know what that is. Managed services for IT. Can you kind of walk us through what managed services are?
Oh, absolutely. So honestly, what it is that we are a department of your business. So a lot of small businesses, they can't afford to hire the 2 or 3 system engineers that require to pay them a 6-figure salary or something of the like to keep them on staff to maintain them. Now, where we come into hand is that we have the diversity and we're working with multiple facilities and offices. So we're not stuck in that same box that if you even hired your own internal IT guy, right? Because he only knows your walls. He doesn't know anyone else's because he's only supporting your stuff. Whereas a managed service provider, they're exposed to all kinds of stuff all the time. A virus attack, a cyber attack is daily news for us. But for our individual clients, that's devastating. That's shocking. No different than like with the insurance guy. They deal with car accidents all day long, right? They help you. They take care of you. That's the same way with us. We help you and we take care of and mitigate those damages and help prevent those in the future as well. So the biggest difference is instead of worrying about employing someone, you just outsource it to a company and they take care of it. And I know you were bringing up like the employment situation as far as securing employees. That's a big challenge with a lot of these small businesses as well. And that's something that we can actually assist overcoming as well.
Well, one of the things that it sounds like managed IT services for a small business is similar to like a fractional CFO. I mean, you read about that all the time, or marketing CMO, where, they can't afford a full-time CFO, but they need someone, once a week or once a month or whatever, or just to maintain because of the ability to connect from remote locations. So that's what you're, a fractional IT service or
Precisely.
network.
You said it better than me. Do you want to be my spokesperson now?
Well, I happen to be in that world where I see all kinds of things like that. And just to kind of dig in the weeds, I mean, I think you make a point. It's a question I've had for a long time, is that if I'm a smaller business but large enough to afford hiring my own network guy or my own, computers guy to come in on staff, it always bothered me exactly what you said when I think through that scenario, because I've actually even had clients ask me, should I do this, because I consult with businesses, is the ability of any one individual within those walls that you talked about to keep up with all the different topics that are out there. Cybersecurity, of course, up at the top of the list, I guess, today. Being able to keep up on the trends, what's new, what's old, what works, what doesn't work, because they are confined within those walls. So their knowledge base is really what I'm getting at, unless they're an exceptional individual who's driven by staying in, by staying in the middle of it all. That alone would cause me to very carefully consider you got to find that relationship that fits. But I don't see that there's really a choice. You need to find somebody in the managed service business for the long-term health of your network.
Absolutely. In fact, that's the thing is that I actually just got back from a cybersecurity conference from last week, and I meet with other managed service providers worldwide, and we get to exchange those ideas. And, it's kind of hard when you're a smaller company and you have the guy. What are you going to do? You're going to send them off for a week and you're going to be completely MIA if something. And what happens? Monday morning, everybody comes into the office, there's a problem, and your guy's out. Like, how do you, so that's a challenge.
Yeah,
So-
it's something that's really bothered me for a long time. It's kind of like, no brainer. You need, because of the intense nature, the importance of the IT, the connection, and so on and so forth. I remember I went through with one client the cost of being down, because really what I said, well, you're not selling, you're selling uptime, right? It's not downtime. Well, I'm there when you break down. I'm there to make sure you're up, that your employees are earning for the company. And we ran some calculations, and it just blew his mind how many thousands of dollars that his company lost if they were down for an hour in any given day, workday. So it became a pretty easy choice for him to do that.
Absolutely. And, it's funny that you say that. You bring up the, how we're selling uptime and whatnot. And actually, because a lot of people want to ask, well, how do I know if my IT guy is good or my IT company is good? And I just had this happen with a company. This was a $20 million a year company. And, the office manager, so, like, Zach, what's a good question that I could ask to find out if they're really protecting me or I'm really covered? And I said, ask them, when's the last time they did a test restore in their backups? And there was this blank look from the IT guy. It was terrifying. She goes, "Oh my God. I did not realize that they have not checked to see if our backups are actually viable." They get the little green check mark that, yes, everything's great, but then they haven't actually checked to see if the backups were actually working. Because imagine if something did happen, they were to get a time, and then they didn't. They try to recover, and the data's corrupt.
Zachary, I got to tell you, you're a man after my own heart, because I have worked on some of these checklists for clients from the business perspective, and that happens to be one that I put on there, and I've gotten resistance from IT companies to actually do it, or even how to really do it. Mm-hmm. So in a way that is not disruptive. It's kind of like having a car for several years, and all of a sudden you got a flat, and you go get the spare, and the damn thing's flat. I mean, that happens all the time.
All the time, right.
And that company is, doesn't have those critical backups. And how many times do I hear today where companies had to use their backups because of a cyber attack or whatever it might be? So it's very interesting. You make a wonderful point. And again, in my opinion, it adds more to the need for a managed IT service company, but you still got to manage them. You can't just give them the keys to the kingdom and walk away.
Absolutely.
No doubt about that. So, Mr. Business Owner, if you're listening, this is not something that's magical. You or someone on your staff has got to stay up to a point where they can communicate and talk to these people and make sure they're viable and going on down the road as you need. Well, we need to take a break. Gosh, I didn't realize so much fun we're having and the time's whizzing by. We're going to take a short commercial break, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, we're going to talk about Zachary's new book, The Compliance Formula. I think you'll find it very interesting, and talk about some of this cybersecurity stuff out there that can be really scary. So please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's radio station with talk, music, weather, and traffic for Montgomery County. Have a question or comment about one of our shows? Want to know how to reach a host? Just contact the station at irlonestar.com or call in and leave a message at 936-647-3776. Get involved with your community with Lone Star Community Radio.
Want to check out the fastest growing sport in the world? It's right here in Conroe, Texas, and it's roller derby. Conroe Roller Derby is a non-profit recreational league of women and men who want you to come and check out the fast-paced, hard-hitting game of roller derby. The Conroe Cutthroats practice at Rainbow Roller Rink on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. You can find our game schedule and more information on our website, www.conroerollerderby.com.
Every Friday, tune into Texas Ticket on Conroe's 104.5 and 106.1 FM with Armando Nino of Go Lake Conroe, focusing on Montgomery County area events and places. Get a feel of the Texas spirit at the event, paired with guest and vendor interviews, event coverage, and ticket giveaways, and so much more. Join us Fridays and punch your Texas Ticket. For more information on the show, visit irlonestar.com/Texas Ticket.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. I appreciate you staying tuned with us. We've been having a very enlightening conversation with Zachary Kitchen, and been talking about everything about managed IT services and IT services, the importance to your business, which most everybody gets that part. Again, if you have an idea or criticism or just want to talk about a business challenge, drop me an email. It's real simple. Again, it's at onebestconsult.com. That's the number one, bestconsult.com. Well, Zachary, we went to break, and I said when we came back, we'd talk about the book that you've just published. So let's talk about the book. The book's there, The Compliance Formula. What's it all about?
So it's actually about CMMC, which is the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Compliance that was developed by the Department of Defense. And it's one of the fastest growing standardization as far as when it comes to entities of having cybersecurity compliance. all the U.S. Departments, like federal departments, like U.S. Department of HUD, NASA, and whatnot, they all have to meet this standard. And any subcontractor or anyone that is working in that industry, they must also be CMMC compliant as well. So these are for those people that are wanting to work with the federal government or wanting to, to get a contract with Department of Defense. They have to meet these minimum standards. And this book is for those people that are interested in working in those industries. The reason I chose this is because we actually do work with NASA and the U.S. Department of HUD as well. So this was a no-brainer for me to get involved with these other authors, because there's like 19 other authors on here as well. And, it was cool because we had like a panel. It's like a boardroom of cybersecurity experts. It's not just my opinion. It's not just Zachary Kitchen's opinion. There's other experts in here that are chiming in as well.
Well, I suspect that if you can comply with NASA's requirements, for an example, then there's a lot of material in there for small businesses, or some thoughts that you would want to convey to the small business owner as well. I assume this is just a level or two, or maybe 10 up.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And that's just it, is that, if you could fit and check these boxes, then you're going to be compliant for your cybersecurity insurance coverage. In fact, that was a big problem that we solved this year compared to last year, is cybersecurity insurance companies were paying out these claims left and right last year. They've tightened that up. You have to tick these boxes and actually meet these certain requirements. That even small businesses, they go, oh, well, I don't have, it's like the insurance company doesn't care. You have to meet those minimum requirements. No different than like if you're auto insurance, right? You have to be sober when you're driving. It sounds simple, but if you're not, your insurance company will not cover you. That's the same thing with like not being secure, is you're driving drunk.
It's a very interesting analogy. Let me back up for a second then. So, I'm not that familiar with cyber insurance coverage. I'm aware that it's out there. Mm-hmm. Insurance agents have kind of given me a general picture of it from time to time for various clients. But what are some things, just in general, that a small business would need to do to be in compliance so they could have or carry cyber insurance?
One of the number one things, and this is one of my specialties in my chapter, is multi-factor authentication. And what multi-factor authentication is that, when you log into the bank and it says, okay, you successfully logged in, we're sending you a code to verify. So what multi-factor authentication is, it's not only something that you know, which is your username and password, but something you have, which is your cell phone, so you can get that code and you can enter it into the prompt, so that way you can log in. That has been the number one leading requirement with every cybersecurity insurance policy that I've come across. And 99.9 of the email accounts that are hacked do not have multi-factor authentication enabled. That's how high it is.
So that tells you why it's a requirement, obviously.
Absolutely. That is number one thing. If someone did that, you immediately decrease your chances of risk dramatically just by that one thing.
And what's another one that might be of interest to our listeners?
Another good one would be to have like a report system of keeping like where your updates are on your computer. So, for example, if your computers are being updated on a regular basis, it's nice to see a report of that, because the insurance company is going to want to see that should you get hacked or compromised. They want to see that you have an update cycle, that when Microsoft or Apple releases an update, that those updates are being installed within 30 days. Now, and I'm not jumping up and saying, hey, that everyone needs to jump up and run updates every single week and all that all the time. And the reason is because, especially in a business, if you have third-party applications or whatnot, there might need to be a little testing phase. And that's where a managed service provider can come into play. Is we test to make sure that there's no glitches or issues with those updates before we roll those out to your organizations.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point, because I personally partake of that type of service, and it's important, because the stuff that comes down the line, there's a false sense of security in some people, and I could have been one, well, Microsoft sent this, it's got to work. Well, we've seen enough of the bungling that can take place, and then it just multiplies and goes crazy, and eventually some of it, very small parts of it, reach the press, so we are aware that it gets published, but there's a lot of things going on behind the curtain, if you will, that we never know about.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I think the idea of keeping those updates in place, it's just like an automobile or any machine. You got to keep it oiled and greased and tuned up. And if you don't, your gas mileage at the very least is going to fall off, and eventually the machine will stop. So, but people don't have that sense about computers. They think they just plug into it and it goes. And it goes, and it goes,
Exactly.
and it never wears out, but it does.
It does. It does. And it does wear out, and it does need to be replaced. But do you want to know the number one cause of cybersecurity attacks?
What is it?
People. You can have the best security defense system in the world, but what good is it if it pops up and says, this program is trying to run, would you like to allow or block this? And they click the allow button. Or an email that they get and it says, hey, this is an email from Rick. I need you to buy $5,000 in Target gift cards. And, because I'm busy right now. Don't call me or anything. Just do it. Do you know how many people have fallen for that? I think in 1 month I had 3 clients that had employees that actually fell for that. Education is the number one key for cybersecurity. It's teaching them. It's teaching them what they need to look out for.
Well, and you make a great point, because we hire people into our business, whether, we're a plumber or an electrician or an auto shop or some type of service business, whatever kind of business. And then we put them in a chair or we put them in a truck, we put them out on the plant floor, and then we give them access, some of them, to computers. And but we don't talk about the basics, at least maybe the particulars of what they need to be aware of. And we just assume people know better than pushing that button. And you're right, it happens thousands and thousands of times every day.
Absolutely. And, and that's the thing. You're only as good as your weakest link when it comes to your team because, right, Rick, you're very tech savvy. I mean, I know based on my understanding, you used to own an IT company as well. And you were in the IT industry, so you understand it, but you also know that it's it's not necessarily you that we're worried about clicking on the wrong thing. It's the, maybe it's the, the retired person that, doesn't use computers all that much. That's, the front desk receptionist that's just there to check people in. That's all it takes. It just takes to convince someone that's a little more gullible than, some of us that are more savvy. That's all it takes. And the thing is that they're getting way more sophisticated. I've even accidentally clicked on things. And fortunately, because you have layers of protection, I was protected because my software goes, whoa, this isn't good, and it's like, oh, okay, cool, delete or whatever. I mean, but, you're a busy guy. I'm a busy guy. We get emails all day long, and it's easy to overlook and see and just click on that one thing.
And it just takes one.
It just takes one, and that's all it takes. It doesn't take a lot. Everyone thinks it's some elaborate, team of people, and it's not.
And I find the interesting twist of that is so many times people, when it happens to them, they want to blame the IT company or the IT service guy or whatever.
All the time.
The first place they go is, we need to blame the IT service guy. Very, very interesting.
Everything works great. They go, what do we need you for? When something breaks, what do we need you for?
There's the story. In a nutshell, that is the story. You're like the Maytag service guy. You don't want them to call you, but then they figure out, why am I paying not to call this guy? Right?
Exactly. I mean, it's no different than the insurance guy. Who loves paying the insurance guy for the automobile insurance,
And never filing a claim.
Exactly.
Well, let's take a few minutes as we kind of wind down, and let's get into a topic that is obviously conversation. Probably one of the top 10 things talked about at any given moment, some way, somehow, some version. Cybersecurity. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a threat. Some people say to our way of life, meaning hacking in, for example, into the electric grid and shutting it down. But it's also, as you've kind of touched on a few stories, somebody hacks in and gets money out of us, that, steals money. The who, when, why, and where of cybersecurity. What is the real threat to the small business owner and their business in the cybersecurity world today? What's the real threat that they are more likely to be touched by it than, say, the other threats that are out there?
Well, Rick, I actually have some really bad news. Everyone's a real threat. And the reason is because no matter how small you are, right? A lot of people go, my company's too small, no one cares about me or whatever. In fact, I just had this happen. And the guy pretty good sized company and everything. I was like, so he goes, well, I'm a small company. No one's gonna mess with me. I was like, do you not have money? It's all about money. They're coming to get money. That's all they're trying to do. It's not necessarily they're going to try to shut down your company because they're necessarily doing a strategic like war in America, like the Colonial Pipeline shutdown, right? But this is, if you have money, they're happy to get it. And the thing is that you're just not big enough to be on the headline news. You're just another one. I mean, this is a daily occurrence. This isn't something that happens sporadically or rarely. This is a daily occurrence. It happens all day, all night long. And the thing is that it's gotten so sophisticated. They even have these scripts set to run, and because they monitor when you're coming in and leaving work. So they do the attacks at night. So when you come in the morning, there's a problem. In fact, majority of the phone calls when there's a cybersecurity attack and whatnot, it happens after hours. In fact, there was a major one 2 years ago that happened right on Friday on the 4th of July weekend. That wasn't an accident. That was intentional. That was planned. Everyone is at risk. It's not, oh, I'm too big or too small. That's not what it is. In fact, you're a prime target because you're more likely not to have the resources to mitigate that attack. So they go after small businesses more. In fact, they account for more than 66% of the cyber attacks. And the thing is, those that do get attacked, if they don't have that backup disaster recovery plan, within the first 6 months, they're 90% likely to file bankruptcy.
Right. And people need to hear that. In other words, you're going to go out of business as a result, directly or indirectly, of that attack that was perpetrated on your business and on you. Another way I try to convey this message to convince people is it's because they use the argument, well, we're too small, nobody knows we're here. I've got 10 employees, 25 employees, one location, whatever, and I'm a plumber, so I don't count. Well, you do count. And I try to convey it in a sense of the world of bad guys. You've got petty thieves, you've got pickpockets down at the bottom, that are picking up the money on the street every day, maybe the 10s, the 20s, the 100s. Well, the hacking is the same way. And then you go all the way up and you got the guy that breaks into national security systems or national banks or whatever and steals millions in cryptocurrency, whatever. So, yeah, there are all kinds of thieves and all different levels. And so, as you say so directly, we're all potentially victims, if you will, of a cybercrime. And we need to be generally diligent. I take it that I don't have to remember a lot of particulars about it, but just have a general sense, kind of like protecting myself from being robbed. When I get out of my car, I just make sure that, just take a look around. I'm not looking for something particular. I'm just something out of, that doesn't look right, that doesn't feel right. If I have that general sense when I'm on the computer, then I'm probably taking care of myself pretty well.
You're already half the battle. You're keeping yourself from being easy, low-hanging fruit, and that's exactly what it is with small businesses. Because they don't think they're a victim, they make themselves low-hanging fruit because that thought process is exactly what they want you to think. And the thing is, how do you want to learn cybersecurity? Do you want to learn it from a hacker, or do you want to learn it from an expert? You're going to learn it one way or another.
At some point, sometime, just like petty crime, they're going to touch you, your family, somebody's going to be taken advantage of.
Exactly.
Well, let's go back to the small business. I mean, what are some resources beyond just the touch and feel of being aware that are available to small businesses?
So there's actually quite a lot. There's a lot of great books out there, and I've actually done something myself where I've actually consolidated like a whole kit to kind of give everybody, and I haven't worked on the 2023 version yet, but I did one last year, and it was phenomenal. It had resources on like phishing tip emails, there's a cybersecurity booklet, and I call it the CyberPat Toolkit, and they can go download it from cyberpattoolkit.com if they want to do it. It's absolutely free. There's no strings attached. I'm not going to spam them with a bunch of email or anything like that, but I'm a big firm believer in that education. And when they do register, they do get access to what's called our Digital Crisis Academy, that has a catalog of all of our prior webinar recordings and whatnot. So they get to learn all the up-to-date information, and then we do a new one. We try to do it on a monthly basis, but release a new one, and they can access that information as well.
Now, what was that address again?
It's cyberpattoolkit.com.
PAC, P-A-C-K or P-A-K? P-A-C-K.
Yes.
I would encourage anyone who listens to this program, unless you're an expert already, that you spend a little bit of time, either you or someone who works with you, to just gain a little deeper knowledge than just the old instinct that all of us can get. As Zachary said, that'll take us so far and will provide a level of protection. Well, let's talk about protecting one's business beyond self-education and whatnot. IT services today, managed IT services, does that give me the highest level of protection, on paper at least?
Does what give you the highest level?
Of engaging somebody in a managed service environment. If I came to you and said, look, I need your best advice, Zachary. I've got this business, I'm doing $1 million a year, $5 million, $20 million, whatever, but I'm a small business, but I know I've got to make an investment ongoing to protect because we're growing, I'm building something, and I don't want to lose it overnight.
So this is where you get to take advantage of my prior malicious experience of being a former hacker. Is you would want to do what's called a cybersecurity risk assessment. Basically, we would look at your infrastructure currently as it is, and we would want to do a full, thorough penetration test of your infrastructure. So that way we can get a detailed report and measure where you're at. Because everyone's a little bit different. And it's, there's not a blanket statement that I can sit down and say, everyone must follow this. And like I said, the education is that big blanket for a majority of people. So if we did the cybersecurity risk assessment, it gives us a detail of all those loopholes and those things that need to be fulfilled. And I think that's honestly the single best thing you can do for yourself is to do that test yourself instead of finding out by an actual attack and then address it from there. And I think everyone should at least do one third-party cybersecurity risk assessment with a different IT provider than they have. Because if I grade myself, I'm going to give myself an A, But if you have a third party do it, you get a real honest feedback with where you're at. I think that is the number one thing that a lot of small businesses neglect to do because they feel that it's too expensive or that it's not necessary. And the thing is, it couldn't be further from the truth when it comes to that insurance claim, because if you have that insurance claim and you say, hey, we did this test and we fulfilled all this, you're doing your due diligence.
Yeah, it makes sense. How often should I run that test? Once a year? Or
once a year at the minimum, know? And I think it's a case-by-case scenario because, for example, if you're in the financial industry and you're dealing with credit cards and you're dealing with Social Security numbers, I think it should be bumped up to once a quarter or even monthly, depending on what that loss is. And that's where a lot of the financial and insurance, financial experts get involved in, is they try to gauge how much protection versus the cost of the loss. For example, 1 month with a busy bank that has tons of financial transactions that get Social Security numbers and credit cards, it's going to cost them a lot more for that month worth of data to get compromised than whereas a small business that's, for example, that's an auto repair shop or something of that nature, do it once a year. So that's why it varies based on what kind of information you're dealing with.
What the exposure is.
Exactly.
Well, we need to wind up, but I got one last question for you, and that's I call the crystal ball. What's the future of cyber threats and security?
So, everyone's talking about how, and I don't know if you saw this in the news last week, but they were talking about how Houston has some of the worst employment rating going on, right? The thing is, the cybersecurity, the ransomware, the hacking is one of the fastest growing industries. Even though it's a malicious and it's a dark web industry, it's only getting worse. And the thing is that your IT guy is going to have some cybersecurity expertise. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Well, you make a great point, and I agree with you 100% on that. If people would like to contact you, your company, if they just want to talk or talk to you about your services, what's the best way for them to do that?
Okay, so I'm going to make this easy. They can email me directly at zach@digitalcrisis.com, or if they just want to call my office and speak with me one-on-one and schedule an appointment, they can call my office at 713-965-7200.
Well, I can't thank you enough. This has been very educational, and this is information that if I owned a business, like I used to, that I could put in place today, put a plan together, and potentially absolutely make a lot more money than I would, or not lose money, depending on how you want to look at it. And it's something, if you are in business today, and you have a computer system, which I'm sure 99% of the businesses do, you need to look at this issue, ladies and gentlemen. Again, thank you, Zach, for joining us today. And ladies and gentlemen, hope you'll stay with us in the second half of the show. We've got a little bit of time left today, and what I'm going to do is my one best consult tip of the day, entitled, What Trends Are Currently Impacting Small Businesses? So please stay with us. We'll be right back with you.
Our talk shows and music shows are looking for sponsors. Want to expand your brand awareness? Reach the hyper-local audience in Montgomery County? Lone Star Community Radio sponsorships accomplish this. Want to see our stats and rates? Check out irlonestar.com/sponsor for more information. Or call in and leave us a message at 936-647-3776 with your question. Get seen on TV or YouTube and heard on our podcast, FM, and internet radio. Sponsor your local radio station with Lone Star Community Radio.
What can the Better Living for Texans program do for you? You can learn how to increase your consumption of fruits and vegetables, choose foods that are relatively inexpensive and good to eat, make your food dollars last longer, prepare quick, nutritious meals, help your children learn how to eat healthier snacks, and much more. Our program is committed to helping people like you improve your health through providing research-based nutrition education in a friendly, cost-free, and relaxed environment. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
Hey y'all, it's DJ Mike from Dance Time in Texas. Join me Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. as I count down the top 10 Texas Red Dirt songs that are packing the dance floor. I'll be featuring local artists and the story behind the hits, shows in the area, as well as new songs that make you want to dance. It's Dance Time in Texas with DJ Mike on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5 KCZW and 106.1 KZCC, Conroe, Texas, or online, irlonestar.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rick Schissler. I'm the host. You were listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and I have to take a second and say that I think the interview that we just had and the conversation with Zachary Kitchen is one that everyone that's in business today would pick up some information that you can use today in your business. Zachary is a great guy. He's got lots of experience, lots of exposure to situations, and he obviously, based on our conversation today, is willing to share that with people. So I encourage you to reach out to him. Also want to let you know that a copy of today's program, podcast will be posted on Wednesday of this week. You can find it all over social media. In particular, you can come to the website of the station here, irlonestar.com, and click on the tab for the Weekly Business Hour, and a copy will be posted there as well as on the onebestconsult.com website. Well, let's take a few minutes and talk about some of the trends that are trends that are facing small businesses today. It's very interesting. This type of thing changes, and I think it's somewhat important that small businesses pay attention to this. And I said somewhat, meaning don't make a career out of it, but be aware of what's going on in the background. And most of the ones that I've found when I did some research this weekend are ones that most, if not all of us, are aware of, so it won't be a surprise. First and foremost, I found artificial intelligence. I don't need to go into that. You've probably read and heard more than you ever hoped for in your life about artificial intelligence. My big takeaway today on that is nobody knows where it's going. Nobody knows what to do with it. Yes, there's some companies out there, big companies, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, are trying to develop products that we can use and integrate them into their products. But there's a lot of concern as well from people that have authority on the issue, and it'll be interesting. But just keep an eye on it, see what's going on. I think potentially there's some things that could help us in small business. There's a lot of things. I know in my writing, access to a simple artificial intelligence program has helped me in my writing develop some new ideas and so on and so forth. So stay tuned, but that's a trend definitely out there. Mobile marketing is out there. More and more messaging is being pushed through our phones. I still have an issue with that because it's hard to read the small print, if you will, being older on the phone, even though the print's not that small, if you get my gist on that. But mobile marketing, I don't think it's developed as quickly as people thought. I know in countries like Japan, they are light years ahead of us in marketing, watching entire forever businesses to connect personally, and people want that. They want to feel like they belong, and they're much more likely in general to do business with businesses they feel like they belong to. Obviously, the online community is another thing. It continues to grow. It's changed a lot over the last 5-10 years since its inception, and you can't afford to sit on the sidelines. You need to find where your type of business, your industry, your business, your market are best represented, and make sure you participate at least a basic level, because there's just too many people going to the online community looking for those relationships, particularly the initial relationship. They're validating using the online communities and the internet, validating your business and what you exactly do. That gets back to primarily your website. And then finally, sustainability. We may not like it, we may not agree, we may be an advocate, but sustainability. It means different things to different people, but sustainability, the environment, the climate change, yes, my opinion on the business side, it's way oversold. It's that old theory, I follow the money, and you find a handful of people are really making lots and lots of money, which raises a doubt in my mind off of the subject. But the fact is that there are ways to connect your business and make it a part of your messaging where it's not overwhelming, where you don't end up in the middle of very, very negative conversations. You definitely don't want to be there. But the idea that you are recycling or some basic things like that, I think the real message is you care. Your business cares about my well-being at some level. And I think there are ways to do that without overwhelming people with what you're doing. So those are some trends. I encourage you to consider them. And if there are ways to implement things in your business, in your industry, then I would do them so that you ride the trend out, and hopefully you would increase and make your company more profitable along the way. Well, thank you again to Zachary Kitchen for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed that discussion. It was a little bit wide-ranging. And put a note on your calendar. We'll be back next Monday at 11 o'clock. So join us right here on irlonestar.com. And until next week, stay engaged and always keep your focus on what counts in your business. Thanks.